Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. This channel is going to be about how we can collect model cars on a budget. Now a lot of us are fans of motor racing or cars in general, and we all have probably collected at some point, whether it's now when we were younger or whether in the future we'll move back into collecting die-cast cars. And that could be Hot Wheels, it could be anything. For the first theme that we're going to look at on this collecting cars on a budget, we're going to look at Formula One. For me, I'm going to keep it to a set theme, and that's going to be between 1968 and 1982. This is the period where I think cars just interest me. The other side of that, I'm not that interested in. So for me, to keep my budget down, that's where I'm going to focus. The aim is I'm not going to pay more than £10 for a model. This is going to limit me, so I'm not going to be buying Spark models or mini champs, things like that. They're lovely, but I just can't afford that sort of thing. So, to keep us to a budget, we're going to be focused on brands like the Formula 1 Magazine series. I think there's about 250 cars in Europe. I think there's 200 in the UK that they've done. I think even there's a South American one, and there are some slight differences between those collections. So there are some other cars that aren't available in different continents. But yeah, so that's mainly where these cars are going to come from. But we're also going to be looking at some of the old RBA releases, IXO, various other smaller brands. We may even look at collecting some of the older mini champs and Quartzo if we can find those for reasonable money. So yeah, let's just get this video started. So these cars all came in one batch group, which I paid £65. There was one other car, but that's Le Mans related. So that works out about £8.15 per car, roughly. So that's well within our sort of target per car. So we'll start with one of the most iconic cars of the 70s. This is a Lotus 72D. This is Emerson Fittipaldi's championship winning car. Lotus 72, really iconic in the John Player special colours. Now, unfortunately, with the magazine series, because they are magazine models, you don't get the full livery, which is a shame. But I can buy some decals. So what I'm going to do is, once I've got enough cars that require these decals, I'll place an order with a guy that makes the decals that literally are designed to fit the cars from this series, which will keep the cost down again, and we'll do a session on how to apply decals to these cars. So Emerson Fittipaldi's Lotus 72D. Also from 1972, Jean-Pierre Beltois and his BRM. I can't remember exactly which race this car's from, but Jean-Pierre did do very well at Monaco in this exact car. Jean-Pierre Beltois, bit of a controversial driver. He was very, very talented, but he is forever surrounded by the incident where he was pushing a Matra at the Buenos Aires sports car race, and unfortunately Giunti in a Ferrari 512 collided with this Matra being pushed and lost his life. So Jean-Pierre is always blamed for that incident when, to be fair, there's all sorts of officials and poor marshalling and things that went on. But surrounded by that. But this, again, really lovely model. Missing the Marlboro logo, so this is one that we'll have to get decals for. Apologies if you can hear a noise in the background. That is my puppies that are deciding to be very vocal. But yeah, really good model. I think that's one of the best ones there. We will do individual videos on these models. This is just a overview of what I've recently had. Now to 1975, and we've got the March 751 of Vittorio Brambilla. Really iconic car, the March. A lot of drivers actually had their starts in March or sort of paved their career through March, and a lot of drivers also, when they lost their factory seats, would go and run a March. It was almost a sort of a car that lots of people could get hold of and run themselves. In fact, there are quite a few people who just did one entry in their home country and things like that in a March car. So an important part of the 70s Formula 1 story. Again, nicely done model. All of these, like I said, are from the Altea Pannini Formula 1 collection. Staying in 1975, but more of a car that you will see at the front, Clay Regazzoni's Ferrari 312. I think this is a 312, let me just double check that. It is, it's a 312 B3 1974. So through 1975 they did change this car. Really like this one because it's got the silver and the gold wheels. It's a great colour scheme. I think it looks fantastic. I do like these Ferraris from the mid-70s period. I think they look great, and they're Clay Regazzoni, a great driver, often overshadowed though by his friendship in sort of with Niki Lauda, who sort of quite quickly took Ferrari's eye as being their #1 driver, whilst Clay had been there for a little while, on and off. I mean, did race the BRMs with Lauda as well. But yeah, an important driver for the 70s, and yeah, very talented behind the wheel, and unfortunately came up alongside Niki Lauda, and the two of them, I think, impacted each other's championship chances in 75. Moving on to 1979, and we have the Ligier. This is the JS11. In 1979, it wasn't quite as successful as it would be in 1980, where it would take Ligier to second in the Constructors' Championship. This is Jacques Laffitte's car. Again, missing the Gitans logos, so this is another one that will get logoed up once we get those decals ordered. Really cool looking car. I have actually potentially going to end up with a duplicate of this because I'm buying another job lot, hopefully, and this car's there as well. And what I'm going to do is either make it the teammate or see if we can turn it into the 1980 car. But yeah, really cool to have that one. Apologies, the dogs are still barking. Next up, 1979 still, we have the Alfa 177. Is this the 77? Yeah. Not a very successful car. Not really a huge amount I can tell you about it. Bruno Giacomelli raced this particular car. It only raced on 3 occasions, and this series has actually modelled 2 of them. There is the livery that's got a little more white and a bit more of a design to it. Interesting thing about this car, we've got the 3, I guess, radiators on the side there, and 2 on the other side. I think they're there for cooling. Alfa Romeo ran their own engines, so did BRM and Ferrari, whilst everybody else was Cosworth DFV powered. Yeah, but an interesting car, not a very good looker for an Alfa Romeo, but yeah. It was actually the cheapest when you look at the individual prices I paid for the models before postage. I think it's not a very popular model, that one. I think I paid $3.99 for it. Still, 1979, we have the Renault JS. I want to say JS, but it's not. It's an RS10. Yeah, RS10. A turbocharged engine. Renault went with the 1.5 litre turbo engines. This is Jean-Pierre Jaboulet's car. Really nicely done model again. A very iconic car, the Renaults, with their yellow and black livery that they had on their Le Mans cars, their rally cars, everything. So you could never represent the brand Renault Elf. So the turbo car in 1979 did start to see success in comparison to the next model I've got, which is the first turbo Renault, the RS01 from 1977. Again, this is Jean-Pierre Jaboulet, and this is his 1977 car. Not as successful, all sorts of issues with just developing the turbo engine and having success. Got the nickname the whistling teapot, or the yellow teapot, because it would constantly have smoke popping out of it at various different places, and it being bright yellow. You wouldn't miss it on a track, that's for sure. But yeah, really cool to see these turbo cars being modelled. Happy to have this one in. It's an important part of the Formula 1 story, and you know, turbo cars did dominate from the early 80s, so yeah, important to have. But there we go. So that is the collection of cars that I picked up. So I paid 65 quid for this whole group, which worked out at about £8.15. So a good start to the collection. Hopefully next week I'll have some more models to share with you. I do have a couple of other individual cars that have arrived, and we'll get those shared, and we'll also do some more in-depth videos on some of these cars. Won't do all of them, but we'll pick out a couple of cars and do a video on them. Thanks for watching. Catch you next week.